שיעור בגמרא בבא מציעא פרק השוכר סומנים דף פ"א עמוד א', and we're going to go a little bit into פ"א עמוד base. This shiur is divided into three parts. First is going to talk about what is the responsibility of the sooel after the days of the sheala, after he decide he cannot use it anymore. Let's say he borrowed it for a week and the week is over. Now he's on the way back. So what's the din of the sooel? What kind of shomer is he? He still has to watch it. The second halacha we're going to go, the second part is going to be regarding the going back to the Mishnah, regarding if somebody says to Reuven, says to Shimon, I'll watch something for you, and in return, Shimon says to Reuven, I'll watch something for you. And then the Gemara is going to go to a beautiful, beautiful story and the discussion about the story, and it's going to be part of all of Imoy as we going to see. So the shiur begins. 5 lines from the bottom of the narrow lines, in the middle of the line, Ibayelu. So before we learn that Rafram says that after the days of the she'ela, the sooel is potur. Let's say he borrowed it for a week, so the moment the week is over, is potur from oines. Doesn't make a difference, even if he died in his house, it's potur from oines. So Ibayelu, the yeshiva bochim ed shaila. Potur, when Rafram says that the sooel is potur after the days, is potur from sooel, is potur from the responsibility of a sooel, which is oines, but v'chayiv k'shem esocher, but he's still going to be chayiv like Hashem esocher, and gneva v'aveda, or idilma, or maybe Hashem esocher nami lo yav, he's not even Hashem esocher, he's going to be Hashem erchinam. He's going to be only chayiv amshir. Rashi line begins with the word she'ela. Potur mishoel, says Rashi, me'oinsim. Chayiv k'shem esocher, says Rashi, b'gneva v'aveda. Back to the Gemara. Omar HaMeimer, so HaMeimer has an answer. Mistabra makes sense that when Rafam says that he's potur mishoel is only potur from oines, but he's chayiv k'shem esocher. Why? So the Gemara is explaining. Oil, because he benefited, the sooel benefited that he was the only one who was able to use it, so he only got benefit. Mehane helps him. Rashi changes the word hey to a yud. Mehane helps. That benefit helps him to be a shomer socher after the days of the she'ela. Rashi. Oil v'nene b'she'elu. Mehane helps liya soleh shomer socher at shetagia liad habayit until it comes to the owner of the house. Zog the Elike Gemara Tanika v'seida HaMeimer. The Gemara is going to bring a proof to the opinion of HaMeimer that if you get a benefit, sometimes benefit carries on to be later on to be a shomer later on, even at that moment he doesn't have the benefit. So the Gemara is going to bring a brayse. I just want to point out a few things. That chosen those days, when the chosen kala used to make up to be a chosen kala, they made up to get married. So the first stage was the chuppah stage. The first stage was the kiddushin stage. The chosen used to give the kala a ring, and it says "Arayat mekodeshes li b'taba azu," and that's what's called an official erusin. Yeah, they were engaged. Erusin min haTorah, and if they wanted to separate, they need to have a get, mamish a get, and then they took time to prepare for the chasana and to do all these things, whatever they need. And in the chasana, right on the day of the chasana, there used to be a chuppah. Okay? And the chuppah was the actually final marriage. And then it was a ichud. They would be together. During that time, the chosen kala would send gifts to impress his kala, to impress his shver, and so on and so forth. So now let's see the brayse. Zog the Elike brayse, we're holding the first wide line. Somebody takes dishes, beautiful china dishes from the house from the factory's house. To do what with them? To send them to his shver's house. Why? Gifts to his kala. Now the chosen was not sure if the dishes will be the taste of his kala. So he took the dishes on condition, and he told them the following thing. If the kala and the shviga will accept this beautiful gift, and I will pay you full price, whatever it costs. Let's say it costs $1,000, I'll pay you for it. If they will not accept it for me, I I will still give you something, but how much am I going to give you? According to the benefit that I get from them. So what is the benefit that he gets? So Rashi brings two different things. In the beginning, Rashi brings the benefit that the fact that the chosen remember to bring gifts to Ikale, so right away, the shver and the shviga say, they have to give them a gift back. So that's already worth something. And even if they're not going to like it, at least he made an impression on them that he remembered to give them gifts. That's also something. Now let's see what happened. Now the dishes was on oines, something happened to the dishes, So now the question is, when did the oines happen? On the way there or on the way back? Be'alicha, on the way there, if the oines happened on the way there, chayiv, is chayiv. Why is it chayiv? So Rashi is going to explain there is two different ways of looking at it, as we're going to see in the Rashi, but I'm just going to speak a little bit about it. Number one, the chosen knew the price of the dishes. So he ready, and the chosen wanted to buy it. So he is considered a buyer till the moment he knows that he's not a buyer. So till he goes to the Kale's house and he has an intention to buy it, he's a buyer. If you're a buyer, if anything happened to it, you buy something in a store and you walk out and something happens, even though it's not, you can't go back to the store and say, oops, can I get my money back? It doesn't work that way. Or, Rashi brings another way, that he's a borrower. He's all in borrowing, he's taking it on a maybe. So either way, either if he's a borrower or a buyer, he is chayiv b'noinus. Now we will make a different halacha between if you're going to say a borrower or a buyer. If the owner, the factory, decides to give those dishes as a donation to the Beis HaMikdash or to a shul, can he do it? So if he's a borrower, the owner can do it. It's not the borrower's stuff. But if he's a buyer, the owner cannot do it. So it's sealed down. Let's see the Rashi. 1 second, let's read. Let's finish the Gemara. But Chazira, on the way back, he's patur. He's off the hook. That's it. He doesn't have to pay on him. But the Braise continues, mipnei, because why? He's patur only from oines. Mipnei shukenois socher, because he's like Hashem socher. So we see that on the way back, even though he doesn't want him anymore, he's already Hashem socher. What makes him Hashem socher? The fact that he had a benefit to go to the Chosen Kala, he had a benefit that he either is showing off with them, or he remembered them to give them gifts. So that benefit is so strong to make him Hashem Masachar later on. So that's a proof to a Meimer. Let's read the Rashi. L'shagom lebeis chomiv, line starts with the word lebeis chomiv, sivloi nois la'arusa, so he gives to his kana. Kefi toiv asano. So here Rashi brings the first toiv asano. She'achziku li toiv, they will owe me a favor, she'pekadeti b'savloinis, that I remember to give them gifts. V'nensu b'alicha chayiv zog deile kerashi, why? The oil v'kotzas the main. This is rule number one in order to make him chayiv. Since he made up the price, he knew. Rule number two, moshchan l'shen mekicho, and he made a kina mishich in order to buy it. So here Rashi brings it, the concept that we mentioned before, that is a lokeach, not a shen. So those dishes are considered as bought by him, till he know that he's not a buyer anymore. And Rashi brings a proof. The same way we say in Perek Amreches Esfino. Omar Shmuel. So Rashi brings a whole new case. When somebody who takes dishes from a woman, let's say he takes a car from the dealer. He takes a car in order to be checked, test drive it. You know what he said? And if there's no problems with the car, he will buy it. And anoinus happened while he was checking it, is chayiv on the car. Why? Because he had intention to buy it. And Rashi brings a point. When do we say that it's chayiv? The kaitzi domer. That he knew, they made up the price. He knew the price, so therefore he agreed to buy it. So therefore, as long as he knows everything is good to the car and he knows the price, so therefore he's a buyer. Bechaziro, potur moinsim. On the way back is potur for moines. Why? Because he's like a shemesocher on the way back. And here Rashi says, "Veloike shoel," he's not a bauer. And now all of a sudden Rashi is changing his words. Before Rashi says he's not a lokeach. Rashi now he's calling him a shoel, and after this he's not a shoel. Now Rashi is asking a shaila, what's his payment? Why are you making him Hashem Socher that he's considered a payment? Says the Eilek Rashi, oil v'ne'ene, since he benefited, shenispar by him, that he was praised with him, that he had a good taste of the dishes, so that makes him Hashem Socher. Now Rashi finalized, v'aynu kavosei da meimar, and that's a proof to a meimar. The afal gav the yoivle kefito v'sano shebohem, here the choson pays the factory. He pays them for the dishes like the benefit that he get. Afal kav, even though so, ave alay Hashem Socher, he still make him Hashem Socher. When? Achar shekol so shmiras hamekach. Since if they've finished already watching of the item, because he's on the way back. But oil v'ne'ene, since he benefited, you make him Hashem Socher. Then kol shken gabe she'elo, for sure by the she'elo, that the lo yoiv limid, he doesn't give him anything. He just borrowed for free. So for sure the benefit goes for after the day. So which means to point like this. If by a chosen, that he pays for the item, you still make him Hashem Socher because he had the benefit of showing off for the dishes. For sure by a shoel, that he doesn't pay for it. For sure, the benefit that he used them, and he had the whole benefit, for sure should be strong enough to make him Hashem Socher after the day.
Using of the dishes. No, the praising of the dishes. Maybe that's a bigger benefit, so that therefore it helps.
Okay. Good point.
No, so then how can we compare? Maybe by the shaylas he has a
No, he makes a kal v'chomer.
Yeah, but
If
you can't. But maybe you can't compare the benefits because one benefit is greater than the other. So if it's a great benefit,
if by the chosen that he had a benefit and he pays for it, therefore it makes the benefit a little bit less because he paid for it. You making him Hashem Socher by a shoel that he doesn't pay for it. So for sure the benefit should be should be continued. He gets a bigger benefit because it's for free. He doesn't pay for it. He gets it for free. Back to the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to bring us a story which is ties up to the concept, to what we learned. Ahu Gavre was a person, the Zovin Lechavre, they bought a donkey, they sold a donkey to his friend. Omalei, so the buyer told the seller, I'm going to bring it to this and this place where I can sell it. So him is the bano, if I will sell it, mutov, then good. Meaning good what? I'll pay for it. Ve'iloi, and if I will not sell it, I will return it to you. That means he's taking it on conditions. Ozal, the buyer went, ve'lo is the bano, and he couldn't sell it. Ube'adi the also, and on the way back, he's returning now to the moichel, to the seller, he's returning to the moichel to give him back his donkey. Itnis, anoinus happened. Also, they came to Rav Nachman for Adin Torah to see if he's responsible or not. Chayve, Rav Nachman made them chayev. Frag the Elike Gemara, Eisi ve'Rabbe. Rabbi is asking Rav Nachman. Rabbi is asking a kasha from a brayse to Rav Nachman. We just learned Ne'ensu be'alicho chayv. On the way to the Kale's house is chayv. Bechazora potu. On the way back is off the hook for moines. So why you, Rav Nachman, making this buyer who's returning the donkey that he couldn't sell, you make him chayv anoinus? You should make him chayv and gneva vaveda, but not anoinus. Omarlei. So Rav Nachman told Rabbi, Chazora de'ai, this returning of this buyer, alichoi, it's considered as if he's going to sell it. My time, eh? What's the reason? Svara, it makes sense. But Chazirosoi, this buyer, what was the purpose of him buying the donkey? It's not like the chosen that takes the dishes to give it to the kala, and if she doesn't like it, he's actually bringing it back. He's not selling it on the way. This guy took a donkey to sell it. So on the way back, what do you think he wants to do until he comes back to the Meichel? What do he wants to do? He wants to still sell it. He wants to make money. So if he would find somebody to sell it to, wouldn't he have sold it? So he's still considered a buyer all the way till he cannot buy it anymore. Till he cannot buy it anymore. And so therefore he cannot sell it. Thank you, good point. Let's see the Toises also like a Rav Nachman. Also like a Rav Nachman, the Chayvei, Frag the Elike Toises, V'teim, it's a wonder. Midoloi Ashkech Lezvune, From that he couldn't sell it, mashma deloy v'zvino charifo. It was not a sharp sale, because you can't sell it. A sharp sale means something that's sold very well. Ve'im ken, amai chayve. Why is he making chayv? V'lo no shneimoi. So both benefit. Meaning, the moicher also wants him to sell it, because the moicher is also making money over here. He's making money on the deal. Ve'amrinam ben adorim. And we say in the Gemara in Adorim, then lechayv alokech. When do we make chayv the buyer an oines elo bezvino charif, on a sharp item, something that's sold, that it's easy sale, shekol ano sheloi, that he has the entire benefit because it's something that you can sell very good. It's an item that sells very good, so the lokech had a good benefit. So why over here Rav Nachman made them chayev? Because if we see that it's not a sharp item, it's not being sold. You see, he's going back. He couldn't sell it, so therefore it's not a sharp item. So if it's not a sharp item sell, so therefore he should be off the hook for minus. We shloimar and for the hele ketoisves. The zvino charif oyo. It was a sharp item. And if we would have sold it for the same price that the moicher, let's say that if the donkey was sold for $100, everybody would have bought it. It was zvino charif, it was a sharp item for $100, not for $150 what the other guy wanted. Or your moitze, Abi will find a lot of buyers. He wanted to sell it for more. And if the reason that he didn't sell it the way he wanted to, mishum shaf above the basic he says, for the price that I got it for, I can always sell it till I return to the moicher for $100, or maybe for $102 and $105. It was not worth it. Nobody does such a business. He wanted to sell it for a lot more. So therefore, it was a sharp item. If you would look at the original price, it was not a sharp item for the price that the loikech put on it. Okay, now the Gemara is going into a whole new sugיא. The Gemara is going back to the Mishnah. Line begins, Zabno. If Reuven says to Shimon, watch an item for me, and in return I will watch something for you, they both Shomer on one another. Now the way we learn, the way the Gemara thought originally, what does it mean Shmoyli? That he tells him, watch something for me today, and I will watch something for you in return today. So that at the same time, they both agree to be shoymrim to each other. Why should they be chayv on one another? Shmira bebailemi. It's be'olavimoi by a shomer sachor. Just give a little bit introduction to the question. The din of be'olavimoi we learn in the Torah that if on the time of the deal, the mafkid, the owner, or the mashil, the lender, does something for the borrower or the shomer, the Torah says that it's a concept of be'olavimoi, which means he's going to be off the hook on everything, including pshia, as we're going to see later on. Pshia is a machlekes, but la'alocha, even on pshia, they're off the hook. That means they're chayv on nothing. So the Gemara says, Shmoy, if I'm watching for you and you're watching something for me at the same time, then we both watching for each other, so we're working for each other. If we're working for each other, the halacha is it's be'olavimoi and should be potter. And for the Gemara Papa Domalei, Shmor li hayoim ve'shmor lechol hamochi. He says to him, watch something for me today, and I will watch something for you tomorrow. Rashi, Shmor li ve'shmor lechol hamochi ve'chayev ve'minig navo is chayev if he got stoned. Ve'amai shmir b'bailemi. Says Rashi, be'olov shel chayfetz zeh shenignav, the owner of this item that got stolen, b'mlachtoi shel shomer oyo, he was working for the shomer, how shafu mishamer oyo loi, because he was also watching for him. V'ksiv, and it says in the pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim, im ba'olavimo, if the owner works for him, lo yashalem, you off the hook, you don't have to pay. And we learn later on in the Gemara Shoel, Imoy, when it says Imoy, Imoy doesn't mean he's with him. Imoy means Mamelachta, he's working for him. Rashi is asking a simple question. Even though the din of Baal of Imoy says only by a Shoel, not by other Shomers, how do you know here you're talking about Shomer Socho to make the din of Baal of Imoy? In Perashoy, we're learning them that applies to all the shomer, meaning applies the din of Baal Avima applies to shomer socho, and also applies to Shomer Chinam. I mean, Shomer Chinam is a machlokes, but Lacher applies to. Next Rashi, V'ani yesh b'chol lemocho. So how is the answer? The la b'melachto you asked her right now when they make the deal. It's not b'ol of imo. He's going to work for him tomorrow, not now. Back to the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to bring a brayse that has many more cases, and the Gemara is going to ask the exact same question and the exact same answer. And Rashi, thank you. And Rashi is going to tell us that the question is only applying for one of the cases. So let's read inside. Tonu Rabbanon. We'll learn in the brayse. Case number 1. Shmoir li ve'eshmoir loch. Watch for me an item, and in return I will watch for you. Case number 2. Ashileini, lend me an item, ve'ashilcho, and I'm going to lend back to you. Case number 3. Shmoir li ve'ashilcho. Watch something for me, and in return I will lend you something. Ashileini, lend something to me, ve'eshmoir loch, and I will watch something for you. So the brayse says, kulam, all these 4 cases, nasu shemesocha zelozeh, they're becoming a shemesocha to one another. Now the first question is, by ashileni v'ashilcho, lend to me and I will lend to you, why the shemesocha? Why they're not chai b'noinus? They're borrowing. And the same thing in the other case of borrowing. Why they're not considered a shoyel, chai b'noinus? So Rashi is going to explain already, because to make somebody a shoyel, that is chai b'noinus, it needs to be kol ha'anoy sheloi, the entire benefit is for that person, for the shoyel. But here that I'm lending to you and you lending to me, we both benefiting out of each other. So we're going down a level to the level of Shem Masach. Frag the Elike Gemore, ve'amai. Now the question of the Gemore, as Rashi explained, I mean, the Rambam says it differently, but we're not going to go into the Rambam. Rashi explained that the question of the Gemore is only in the case of Shmoir li ve'eshmoir loch. Because, let's read first the case and then we eliminate all the other cases. It says, it's the same question like before. It's ba'al of imoy, and therefore, I'm watching for you and you're watching for me. We're working for each other. It should be ba'al of imoy in patu. And for the Elike Gemara, the same answer. Let's read the Rashi, and in the Rashi we're going to see why the question of the Gemara does not apply to the other 3 cases, or it's only on the case of Shmoir li ve'eshmoir loch. The second line of the wide lines in the Rashi. Ashileini ve'eshloch, zogt Rashi, ein ze shoyel is chai b'oines. This is the first question we discussed before. Why is he not chai b'oines? He's not. Why? She'ein kol hano sheloi, because he doesn't have the entire benefit. How? She'hafum sheloi, because he's also lending him. Shmira b'bailimi. So now Rashi says, on what case is the question? Shmoir li ve'eshmoir loch. Under Aleph is a patach, not eshmoir. It's on the case of Shmoir li ve'eshmoir loch. It goes in the question. Why? Sheshneim zeh b'melachto shel zeh. Both of them are working for each other. Now, why is the question not on the other 3 cases? Aval ashileini keilecho ve'ani ashilcho keila. The case of number 2, lend me your stuff and I'm going to lend you my stuff. Or case number 3, shmoir li ve'ashilcho. Watch something for me and I will lend to you. Or ashileni ve'eshmoir loch. Or lend something for me and I will watch something for you. The shaila of ba'al of imo is not. Why not? Because ein kan be'olim shel chayfetz be'melachto shel shomer. Because the owner does not work for him. They're not working for each other. Let's take the example of ashileni ve'ashilcho. Lend something to me and I will lend something to you. They're not working. He's lending it to me. Same thing. Ashileini, lend something to me. Lend me this. Ve'eshmoir loch, and I will watch something for you. So you are the owner. You're not doing something for me. And the same thing, the 3rd case. Back to the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to tell us a story, and the story has to do with Be'ol of Imoy by Pshia B'Bailim. Just a little introduction. In the parsha of Be'ol of Imoy, there is the 3rd parsha is the parsha of Sooel, and it says clearly the din of Be'ol of Imoy by a Sooel. Shemesocha, it says clearly the din of Be'ol of Imoy by a Shemesocha. How? Because there is a vav that connects the parsha of Sooel and the Shemesocha. But between the parsha of Shemechinam and Shemesocha is no vav to connect. Therefore, is a machlokes in the Gemara that is the din of Be'ol of Imoy that we're taking from Sooel, does it go all the way back to Shemechinam or not? One opinion holds that no, there's no vav to connect, so therefore the din of Baal Avimai cannot be connected to Shomer Socher. That means like this. How do we know that Shoel and Shomer Socher are Chayv and Pshia? The only way we know it is from Shomer Chinom. Because the din of Pshia by itself, it only says by Shomer Chinom. So how do we know it by Shomer Socher and Shoel? Because if Shomer Chinom, that is Potter and everything is Chayv and Pshia, Shoel and Shomer Socher, they're Chayv and more. They're more responsible. For sure, they're Chayv and negligent. But Baal Avimai, we don't do backwards. To make him Potter, we don't do it. So that's one opinion. So Baal Avimai, by Pshia, by all the Shomim, is always Chayv. That's the opinion of Ravina. Ravach, Chayv. Ravach is Chayv. Ravina says no. You're right, there is only a vav between the parsha of Shomer Socher and Shoel. You're right. But when you put a vav, when you have three parshas connected next to each other, you don't have to put a vav next to between each parsha. For example, if I send you to the store to buy me 3 items, pizza, ice cream, and drinks, so the end you put in the end. So the vav that connects the parsha of Shoel and Shomer Socher also applies to the parsha of Shomer Chinom. Therefore, we know that Baal Avimai is Potter also by Pshia B'Bailim to the connection of the 3 parshas. Now let's read the story from inside. And this time we're also going to read all the Rashis, so make sure it's a very simple Rashis. Hanhu Ahluyeh, there were people who were selling soap or perfume. The Chol Yom, that every day, Aveofilom Chad Minayu. One of them used to bake. They were peddlers. They were selling soap and perfume, going from town to town. And the way they used to do it, one of them was responsible to bake for them. So he used to go to the bakery and bake for them and bring them to the bread, to the place where they used to park. The day that the story happened, they told one of them, now what we assume right away in the beginning of the story was that the person that they told, it was his turn to bake. What they told him, Zil Ofilon, go bake for us. It's your turn, go bake for us. So the guy who's going to bake told the other guy, the other peddlers, not to legally moy, please watch for me my coat. So now, when they watch for him the coat, so now they're becoming a shomer chinom. They're watching it for free because they're not benefiting anything out of the baker. And they also, at the time he came back, they made a pshia and it got stolen. Also, they came in front of Rav Papa. Why did Rav Papa make them chayv? Because shomer chinom is chayv and pshia. Therefore, they did on pshia. The chayv. Rav Papa, so Chachamim had a problem with that ruling. They told Rav Papa, "Amai, why you chayv? Should be potter pshia b'bailimi. It's be'olavim or the pshia. Be'olavim or the pshia. You should be potter." What do I mean? Because at the same time that they agreed to watch their coat, he was going to the bakery. Now, by the way, going to the bakery, as the Gemara is going to say later on, going to the bakery is considered already starting to work, even though you didn't bake. Going to the bakery is also starting to work. You don't have to actually bake. So Achsif, Rav Papa got embarrassed. He got white, like kesef, silver, his color is white. Since the Rebishter does not create that a tzaddik will rule wrong, a tzaddik always, except very few cases, a tzaddik will always rule right. It will reveal the story that it was a little bit different. That was shaito. That time that he was supposed to go baking, instead of going baking, he went somewhere else. Shikro avekoshos. He went to drink beer. Oh, so at the time when they agreed to watch, it was not Baal Avimai anymore. He didn't do anything for them. Meaning, if he would have gone baking and then got to drink beer, there would be perfect Baal Avimai. But since he went to drink beer, so it's not Baal Avimai. Rashi. Line begins with the word chafetz, 4 lines from the top of the wide lines. Ahaluya says Rashi, moichrei aol, people who sell soap, shemechapsim boi begodim, that we wash clothing with them, ve'oisem, and it's made from a grass. V'iked amri, there are those who say, what they're selling? Aholais, they were selling perfume. Ve'hu min boisem, it's type of a perfume. Zil ofilon, says Rashi, kosal kedaitach, 1 second. Let me finish the Rashi and then I'll answer. Kosal kedaitach, the Gemara thought, Yoim edidei ave was his day to bake. The ashto that now in this case lo yavu yinu b'shmiras talisoi. They are not in the guarding of his talis. Elo kashem mechinam. Only kashem mechinam. And therefore, veitzrich lemeimer poshubo. Therefore, they had the story came out. There was a pshir. The Aehloy, because if it wouldn't be a pshir, lo mechayvi, because shemechinam is potter and gnei v'aveda. Pshir b'bailim, says Rashi, she'afu b'melachta moya. He was working for them by going to bake. Igloim el sedai shaise shicha v'shosi, says Rashi, v'lo yo b'melachtom. He was not working for them. Why? She'adayin lo yischil efes. He didn't start going. He didn't even go to bake. He didn't start to bake. V'nimtza comes out sheb'shor shenasu em shoimrim. At the time when they became guards on the coat, lo imosar atzmo ilis melachtom olav. He did not agree to work for them because he went to drink beer. Aval Rashi brings another case. Even the sasek miyad, if he would be busy right away, ve'ofen he went back to bake, v'laachar she'ofer shos yishicho, and after he baked, he drank beer, ubeoiso shov the taliso, and that time his talis was lost or stolen. Pshir b'baylim namavi, it would still be pshir b'baylim. Why? Oil kshenasu shoimrim, because we looked at when they became guards. This is when ba'ol avimoy applies. When you're starting the deal, you ba'ol avimoy. Oil b'melachto. Like it says in Gemara later, if he was doing something for him in the time of the sheala, he doesn't have to be doing something for him in the time of the breaking of the die. Yes.
When you went by in the Rashi of aahloyy, the last 4 words, aahloyy is one of the holiest movement.
Min boisem. Type of perfume, right.
So what's you said aahloyy is perfume.
So aahloyy perfume.
A type of perfume. It's the
You
same.
said aahloyy means perfume, but then ahol means soap. So what's the difference between ahol and ahol?
Ahol, aleph hey lamed is soap. Aahloyy is perfume.
What's the difference?
I didn't create languages, so I don't know. That's the way it is. Aleph hey lamed is
Then why
soap.
the human bison is a type of perfume?
It's a different word.
It's a different word. It's a different word.
I
It's a
understood
different
that aahloyy is aahloyy. What is aahloyy? The human bison is a type of perfume.
Yeah, okay, it's the same thing. Okay, let's go weiter. Now, before we're going to continue the questions of the Gemara, we have to bring an introduction. We see clearly from this story that in the generation of Rav Papa, everybody held that Pshir b'baylim is potter. How do we see it? Because very clearly, Chachomim told Rav Papa Pshir b'baylim potter. And what happened to Rav Papa? He got embarrassed. If he holds Pshir b'baylim chayiv, he should have said, I hold Pshir b'baylim chayiv. He didn't say it. He got embarrassed. That means Rav Papa held potter and Chachomim held potter. In that generation, everybody held potter. Now, Ravach and Ravina will argue about this halacha, Pshir b'baylim chayiv or potter. There were 2 generations later. So now the Gemara is going to ask a simple question. In the generation of Rav Papa, everybody held Pshir b'baylim potter. How can you, Ravach, who hold chayiv, make up a whole new halacha and say and the Pshir b'baylim is chayiv? You can't just come and say, oh, I'm waking up in the morning, I'm making a new halacha. It didn't exist. If from Moshe Rabbeinu till now, everybody held Pshir b'baylim potter, especially when we see it clearly from the story, how can you, Ravach, make up a whole new story? So Ravach is going to explain the Gemara a little bit different. Let's read it from inside. The whole story makes sense according to the other opinion who says that Baal of Pshir is potter, as we said before. And also the detail of the story that Rav Papa got embarrassed. It makes sense. Why? Because he also had Pshir b'baylim potter. But according to the opinion who says Pshir b'baylim is chayiv, why did Rav Papa get embarrassed? Now the question is not on Rav Papa, because Rav Papa got embarrassed because he held Pshir b'baylim potter. The question is on Ravach, who was a few generations later. How did you come? You see that everybody held potter in the generation of Rav Papa, and how do you come up, with a new ruling, a new halacha that chayiv? Let's read the Tosfos. The last Tosfos on the Amud. You have to say that that's a question of the Gemara, and that's why Tosfos has to point it out. Says the Eilike Tosfos. The Kashi not on Rav Papa why he got embarrassed. The kasha is according to Rav Acha, who holds chayiv. From where? Moved the Rav Papa. From the story of Rav Papa. From the story we see everybody held the potter. The Rav Acha and Ravina iflugu belakamon. Rav Acha and Ravina argue later on if Shiva Baalim is chayiv or potter. Shehoyu achar Rav Papa. There were generations after Rav Papa. So therefore, how can the guy old chayiv disagree in the Torah that everybody knew that it's a Shiva Baalim potter? Rashi. On icha leman de Omar. So Rashi, where is the machloikes? Rashi says, בפרק השואל, Shiva Baalim is potter. Ainu deichsif, that's why Rav Papa got embarrassed. Rashi does not really go to explain the question of the Gemara. So Rashi is only going to explain over here why is the opinion of the man the Omar Chayiv. What is he holding? Why does he hold Shiva Baalim Chayiv? Says Rashi, the only it says that potter by Baal of Imoy elo by Shoel by Shomer Socher. Only by Shoel or Shomer Socher, because they have the verb to connect the two parshas. And only what it says in their parshas, shechiyuvam beloy pshir. In their parshas doesn't talk about chiyuv b'pshir. Doesn't mention anything. Only mentions by Shomer Socher gneva v'aveda and by Shoel oines. So only on their chiyuvim, it says clearly in their parshas, that's what you connect those to is Baal of Imoy. Aval shemer chinom shechiyuva eino elo b'pshir. But a shemer chinom, which is the parsha before, and there is no vav to connect that parsha to the other parshas. And the only chiyuv, the only obligation that the shemer chinom has is only pshir. Eino patu mishum Baal of Imoy. He's not patu because of Baal of Imoy. Or elo pasha. Because he made a pshir. And pshir, you're not off the hook by Baal of Imoy. So therefore, Rashi finalized, why did Rav Papa get embarrassed? And as we says, that the question is not on Rav Papa, the question is on Rav Acha. Rashi does not point it out, but Tosfos already points it out. Back to the Gemara. And for the Elokim, yes?
By Rashi, he didn't already point it out, he pointed it out after Rashi.
Yeah, Tosfos pointed out for Rashi, the good point.
So Rashi didn't do it because Tosfos already...
No. I always had a question. I don't know why. Rashi could be assumed that we should know it by ourselves. It was so simple, because it would be otherwise silly. What do you mean you're asking a question, Rabbi, why you got embarrassed? You got embarrassed because you're Shiva Baalim Potter, but that's why you got embarrassed. It's not even a question. So Rashi understood that you should understand by yourself. But Tosfos said, Rachmanis on us, and he elaborated. Okay, back to the Gemara. And for the Elike Gemara, Elo Ahu Yoim Elav Didei Ave. We're holding the last two lines from the bottom. That day was not his turn to bake. They wanted him to bake because he was a special baker. They told this guy, Zil Ofilon At. So this is, you go bake for us. So he tells them, in that payment. Now they're getting a payment because he's a special baker. In the payment, that I'm baking for you, watch my coat. Less Rashi on the page. Turning the page. Also, Igni, by the time he came back, it was stolen. No pshir. You see, in this part of the story, the new way of reading the story, it was no pshir. It was only stolen. Also, like I made Rav Papa, Rav Papa made him chayiv. Why did Rav Papa made him chayiv? Rav Papa made him chayiv because Shemer Socher is chayiv and gneva v'aveda. Simple. So now this continued the story. Omar leRabbanon leRav Papa, so Rabbanon attacked Rav Papa and they asked, why should it be chayiv or shmira bebailimi? Now referring to a Shemer Socher with Baal of Imoy, it's called shmira bebailimi. So they said, why should it be chayiv? It's shmira bebailimi. Shmira bebailimi is going to be potter. Ichsif. He got embarrassed. So everything is the end, the same. Then they revealed the story that we shayt the shikra v'shasi, so therefore it was not the all of him. Rashi, there's only one Rashi on the Omed. Ados igni beloy pshir was stolen with pshir. V'chayvinu shum gneva the Shemer Socher. He made him chayv because of stealing of the Shemer Socher. So I just want to point out there is a few differences between the stories. Number one between the two stories is. The first way of the story was his day to bake, and the second story was not his day to bake. In the first part of the story, they told him to go bake because it was your day, and here in the second story it says Zil Ofilon At, you go bake for us. The third detail, that therefore, if he's baking special for them, they are becoming shomer sochor on the item, not shomer chinam, like in the first story. Okay? And then another difference is that Chachomim, that how it got stolen, according to the first part of the story, was stolen with a pshia, and according to the second part of the story, was just stolen. One more different, I believe it's a less different. Chachomim, when they ask Rav Pope, the shaila, the kashe, according to the first part of the story, they ask it's pshia bebailim, and according to the second part of the story, they said it's shmira bebailim. Thank you so much for listening to the shiur.